The market was alive with noise, but not with joy. Voices rose and fell like broken music, mixed with the sound of rain hitting metal roofs. The sky above the alien city was gray and the air smelled of smoke and sadness. Under those dark clouds walked a small alien girl named Lyra. Her feet were bare, and her thin cloak was soaked through. She held a small bag close to her chest as if it contained her life. Inside that bag was her hair, long strands of soft silver that used to reach her back. It shimmered faintly even in the rain. Among her people, silver hair was rare and beautiful. The rich bought it to make clothes or ornaments. To Lyra, it was the only thing left that had any value. Her little brother, Ren, lay in a broken cart behind an old wall near the edge of the market. He had been sick for many days. His skin had turned pale blue and his eyes no longer opened. Lyra had tried everything, begging, borrowing, even stealing food, but now he needed medicine. Real medicine. And for that, she needed money. She moved between the crowded stalls, calling softly, "Please, sir. Please, ma'am. Will you buy my hair? It's clean. It's pure silver." Most ignored her. Some looked at her with pity. Others frowned and turned away. A merchant with heavy rings on his fingers laughed when she showed him the silver strands. "Your hair?" he said, smirking. "You've cut it yourself." "It's messy, weak, no worth." "It's still good," Lyra whispered, holding out the strands. "Please, my brother is sick. He needs medicine." "I'll sell it cheap," the merchant shrugged. "I'll give you 3 credits. Enough for a half loaf of bread." "3?" she repeated, her voice shaking. "That's not enough for medicine." "Then find someone else," the merchant said, waving her off. "No one wants dirty street hair." Lyra bit her lip. The tears burned her eyes, but she didn't want to cry in front of him. She turned away, clutching her bag tighter, and walked deeper into the market. The rain grew heavier, washing the dust off the streets but leaving her colder than before. She tried another stall, then another. Each time she got the same answer, either laughter or rejection. Her small hands trembled as she reached up to wipe her face, but the tears kept coming anyway. And that's when someone saw her. A tall figure in a brown coat stood under the awning of an old apothecary stall. His face was hidden under the hood, but his eyes followed the little girl as she walked past. The man was human, a rare sight in this alien district. His name was Dr. Aaron Holt, a doctor who had been traveling from colony to colony helping those who could not afford help. He watched the girl for a long moment. Something about her, maybe the way she kept whispering please into the rain, made his chest tighten. When she stumbled on a loose stone and dropped the bag, the silver strands spilled out onto the wet ground, shining like fallen starlight. She fell to her knees, trying to gather them up before the mud ruined them. That was when Holt stepped forward. "Here," he said softly, bending down to help her. Lyra froze. She looked up, startled. The human's face was kind, but she pulled back in fear. "Please, don't take it," she whispered. "It's all I have." "I'm not taking it," Holt said gently. "I'm helping you pick it up." He placed a few wet strands back into her hands. "Why are you selling your hair?" Her lips trembled. She wanted to run, but his voice was calm and his eyes looked honest. "My brother," she finally said. "He's very sick. I need money for medicine. Where is he?" The doctor asked. Lyra hesitated. "You're human," she said quietly. "Humans aren't allowed in the lower blocks." "I know," Holt replied, lowering his hood. "But I'm also a doctor." For the first time, she really looked at him. His coat was old, his hands rough, but there was something steady in his gaze. "You'd help a stranger?" she asked in disbelief. "If he's sick, he's not a stranger," Holt said. "He's just someone who needs help." Lyra stared at him for a long time. No one had ever said words like that to her before. Finally, she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Follow me." She led him through narrow alleys, her small feet splashing through puddles. The buildings grew older and darker the deeper they went. Rats scurried past and flickering neon lights buzzed overhead. At last they stopped near a broken cart. Inside lay Ren, his breathing shallow, his lips turning gray. Holt knelt beside him at once, touching his forehead. "He's burning with fever," he muttered. Then he noticed a faint blue mark on the boy's neck, a mark that looked like a wound. "This isn't a simple illness," Holt said, frowning. "He's been poisoned." Lyra's eyes widened in horror. "Poisoned? But who? Why?" Holt didn't answer yet. He reached into his coat, pulling out a small medical scanner. "Hold on," he said, his voice calm but urgent. We can still save him. As he worked in the dim light, rain dripping through holes in the roof, Lyra watched him with fear and hope tangled together. She didn't know who this man was or why he cared, but for the first time in days, she dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, her brother could live. Rain dripped through the cracked ceiling as Dr. Holt worked quickly beside the sick boy. His small medical scanner blinked red. Lyra knelt nearby, watching his every move with wide, fearful eyes. She didn't understand the human tools, but she understood one thing. Her brother's breathing was getting slower. Is he dying? She asked in a trembling voice. Dr. Holt didn't look up. His hands moved fast, pulling out a vial of glowing green serum from his bag. Not if I can stop it, he said calmly. This poison is slow but strong. Whoever did this wanted him to suffer first. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Who would want to hurt a child? Someone cruel, Holt answered softly, pressing the injector against Wren's arm. The serum hissed and the boy's body shivered. Holt checked his pulse again, then breathed out slowly. His heart is weak, but he's still fighting. Lyra bit her lip and whispered, Please save him. I'll give you anything. I'll find more hair to sell. I'll do any work. Dr. Holt turned to her, his blue eyes gentle. You don't have to pay me. I help because I must, not because I'm paid. Lyra blinked. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever helped her for free. On this planet, kindness was a story for children. But before she could speak, loud voices echoed from the main street outside. The alien guards were patrolling, their boots splashing in the puddles. They were searching for someone. Lyra froze. If they saw a human here, especially helping aliens, both she and Holt could be punished. Dr. Holt's eyes darted toward the sound. We need to move him, he whispered. Now, Lyra's heart pounded. Move him where? There's nowhere safe. There's always somewhere, Holt said, lifting the weak boy gently into his arms. Trust me. Lyra hesitated, then grabbed her bag of silver hair and followed. They slipped through narrow alleys, the rain masking their footsteps. Behind them, a guard's voice shouted something, words that made Lyra's stomach twist. Human scent detected. They ran. Lyra's small legs struggled to keep up, but Holt slowed his pace to make sure she didn't fall. The streets twisted like a maze. Finally, they ducked into an abandoned building covered in moss and metal rust. Holt laid Wren down on a makeshift table and began checking his pulse again. The boy's breathing had steadied a little, but his skin was still pale. Lyra stood at the doorway, shaking. Why are you helping us? She asked suddenly. You could get arrested. Or worse. Holt wiped the rain off his face. Because I couldn't walk away. Not after seeing your tears. My tears? She whispered, confused. He nodded. Sometimes tears tell more truth than words. I saw your pain. You didn't need to say anything. Lyra didn't know what to say. All her life she had seen humans treated as outsiders, cold, greedy, dangerous. But this one had risked his safety for a dying alien boy. Dr. Holt took a small tablet from his bag and placed it beside Wren's hand. This will help stabilize him, he explained. But he needs a proper medical bed and real equipment soon. Lyra frowned. But the hospitals won't take him. They don't treat aliens from the lower blocks. I know, Holt said. That's why we'll make our own place. Make our own? She repeated, puzzled. He smiled faintly. Yes, there's an old outpost beyond the city. It used to be a joint human-alien medical base during the war. I fixed ships there once. If we can reach it, I can help him fully. Lyra's fear turned to hesitation. The outpost was far, through dangerous lands patrolled by gangs and guards. It's too risky, she said quietly. You'll be caught. You'll lose everything. I already lost everything, Holt said softly, looking away. My license, my home. All because I treated alien children when others refused. His voice broke the silence. Lyra looked at him, realizing the truth. This man wasn't just a doctor. He was someone who had defied his own people for compassion. Wren coughed weakly. Holt bent down and checked his temperature again. He has a few hours before the poison spreads again, he said grimly. We must leave before dawn. Outside, thunder rolled across the dark sky. Lyra shivered but nodded. I'll go with you, she said firmly. Wherever you go, I'll go. My brother is all I have. And he'll live, Holt promised. I'll make sure of it. The girl watched him in silence. His coat was torn, his boots muddy, yet he stood with the calmness of someone who refused to give up. She had seen soldiers, traitors, priests, but never anyone like him. As the rain faded to a quiet drizzle, Holt prepared his medkit again. Lyra helped, handing him small tools, learning each one by name. There was no fear now, only strange trust growing in the space between them. Finally, Holt glanced at her and said, "You should rest a little. Tomorrow will be hard." Lyra shook her head. "I can't sleep." "What if he stops breathing?" Holt smiled faintly. "Then we'll both watch him." And so they sat together beside the faint light of a dying lamp. Outside, the city hummed in darkness. Inside, one human and one alien shared a single goal: to keep a small boy alive until the first light of morning. The night was long, but neither of them moved away. Somewhere deep inside, both understood. This was no longer just about saving one life. It was the beginning of something bigger, something that could change everything. The first light of dawn broke through the cracked windows, touching the sleeping faces of Lyra and her brother Wren. But Dr. Holt was already awake. He had not slept all night. His sharp blue eyes studied the scanner beside Wren's bed. The numbers blinked yellow. Not good, but not hopeless. He checked the wound on Wren's neck again. The veins around it glowed faintly blue under the skin. "The poison is changing," he muttered to himself. "It's artificial. Someone made this." He turned to see Lyra sitting up, rubbing her tired eyes. Her small voice broke the silence. "Is he better?" "Still fighting," Holt said. "But the poison is strange. It's not natural sickness, it's something made to weaken his kind." Lyra's heart sank. "They wanted to kill him?" The doctor nodded slowly. "Or test him. Either way, we can't stay here. The guards will search the lower blocks by morning. They'll find us." Lyra glanced at the window. The city was waking, lights flickering on, airships floating above the skyline. "Then we leave now," she said firmly, standing up. "You said there's an outpost. Let's go." Holt looked at her and smiled faintly. "You're brave for someone so young." "I don't have a choice," she said. "If I stop being brave, he dies." Holt packed his bag quickly, adding small vials, tools, and a few silver discs. He then wrapped Wren in a warm blanket and lifted him gently into his arms. "Stay close," he whispered. "And whatever happens, don't make a sound." The three slipped into the narrow streets, hidden under the fading fog. The city smelled of smoke and rust. Every few steps, Lyra looked back, afraid of the patrols. Posters covered the walls. Warnings about humans entering alien districts. Each one had a fine or punishment listed below. They crossed through a marketplace just as the merchants were setting up. No one noticed them at first, but one woman's eyes followed the tall human carrying a small alien child. She frowned and whispered to another trader. Holt's heart quickened. He moved faster, his coat covering Wren's face. When they reached the end of the market, they heard the sound that froze them in place. Metal boots. "A patrol. Keep walking," Holt whispered. Lyra nodded, trying to look calm, but her small hands trembled. The guards turned the corner. 4 tall alien soldiers, their armor shining dull gray. One pointed his scanner forward. "Human scent detected," he said. Lyra's stomach dropped. Holt whispered, "Run." They ran down one alley, across another. Water splashed under their feet as the sound of boots thundered behind them. Blasters fired, hitting walls and leaving bursts of light. Holt turned sharply, ducking into a narrow passage barely wide enough for one person. The guards' voices grew louder behind them. "This way," Lyra gasped, pulling his sleeve toward an old stairway leading underground. They stumbled into the darkness, breathing hard. The air smelled of damp stone and decay. They found themselves in a forgotten tunnel, one of the old wartime escape routes. "Good thinking," Holt said between breaths. "This will lead us closer to the outer ring." As they walked through the tunnel, their footsteps echoed softly. Lyra looked at him and whispered, "Why do humans always help others?" "You could have stayed safe." Holt smiled faintly in the dark. "Not all humans do. But I joined the Alliance because I wanted to make peace, not watch others die." "You were a soldier?" she asked. "No," he said, shaking his head. "A healer. But sometimes healing hurts just as much as war." Lyra didn't understand all his words, but she could feel the sadness behind them. Suddenly, Wren coughed weakly in Holt's arms. Holt stopped and knelt down, checking his pulse. "He's getting worse again. We have to move faster." They finally emerged from the tunnel onto the outer plains beyond the city. The sky was wide and open, the clouds stained with the orange glow of sunrise. The cold wind carried the scent of soil and rain. "There," Holt said, pointing toward distant mountains. Beyond those hills lies the old outpost. Lyra shaded her eyes. How far? Too far to walk with him like this, Holt admitted. But there's an old cargo route nearby. If we can find a hover cart, we can ride it halfway. They began walking, step by step. The ground was rough and uneven. Lyra's feet ached, but she didn't complain. She kept glancing at her brother, whispering small words to keep him awake. Hours passed. At last, they reached an abandoned supply depot. Rusted hover carts were lined up under broken shelters. Holt found one with partial power. It'll work, he said. Climb in. Lyra helped him lift Ren onto the seat. As the hover engine started, a soft hum filled the air. For a moment, Lyra allowed herself to hope again. But then, distant noise. Engines. Holt's face hardened. They found us. Behind them, patrol ships rose over the horizon, their lights cutting through the morning mist. Lyra clutched her brother's hand tightly. Hold on, Holt said, pushing the throttle forward. The hover cart sped across the open plains, wind whipping against their faces. Laser fire streaked past them, hitting the ground in bursts of dust. Lyra cried out, ducking low as Holt maneuvered sharply between rocky ridges. Almost there, he shouted. In the distance, she saw it, a gray structure rising from the fog, half buried, half standing. The old outpost. As they neared it, Holt glanced at her. Once we reach that door, we'll be safe. Lyra nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks from the cold wind. Behind them, the patrols closed in. The hover cart jolted, its engine coughing, but Holt didn't slow. He guided it straight toward the outpost's steel doors. With one final push, they crashed through, sparks flying. Inside, the lights flickered to life, revealing old medical tables and dusty screens. Holt laid Ren down carefully, his voice steady, even as his hands shook. We made it, he whispered. Now we fight for his life. And as the doors sealed shut behind them, the faint hum of the outpost came alive again, like a heartbeat returning after years of silence. The heavy doors groaned shut behind them, locking out the noise of the world. For the first time in days, silence filled the air. The old outpost smelled of dust and metal, untouched for years. Dim blue lights flickered to life along the walls, casting long shadows across cracked floors and forgotten machines. Dr. Holt placed Ren on an old medical table, his breath still faint, but steady. He's stable for now, Holt said softly, more to himself than to Lyra. He opened his medical kit and began to clean the wound again, using purified water from his emergency supply. Lyra stood close, her silver hair, now cut short, clinging to her wet cheeks. Is he going to live? She whispered. Holt looked at her with tired eyes. If I can keep him warm, feed him medicine, and stop the poison from spreading, yes. But we're far from safe. He moved to a control panel on the wall and brushed away layers of dust. The screens flickered, showing a holographic map of the old station. This place was built during the Human-Alien Alliance War, he explained. A medical unit for soldiers who couldn't return home. Then, it's yours? Lyra asked, stepping closer. Holt gave a faint smile. No, it belongs to no one now. That makes it the perfect hiding place. Lyra walked slowly through the room, her small hands tracing the surfaces of old machines. It feels peaceful here, she said quietly, like it remembers kindness. The doctor paused for a moment, staring at her. Maybe it does, he said softly. This place saved lives once. Maybe it can again. He returned to Ren and began preparing a new serum. The boy's breathing had grown shallow again. Lyra watched nervously as Holt attached thin tubes to Ren's arm. What are you doing? She asked. Giving him oxygen, Holt explained. His blood is losing strength. We need to help it carry air again. Lyra nodded slowly, though she didn't fully understand. She only knew that this human's hands moved with purpose, like he was fighting death itself. Hours passed. The sun outside faded into orange and then into deep violet. The outpost lights dimmed as power cells drained. Holt finally leaned back, rubbing his forehead. He'll sleep now, he murmured. If the medicine works, he might wake by morning. Lyra sat down beside her brother's bed. Her voice trembled. I don't know how to thank you. You already did, Holt said, sitting across from her. By trusting me. There was a long silence between them. The hum of the machines was the only sound. Lyra looked at Holt's burned shoulder, the wound from the plasma shot during their escape. You're hurt, she said suddenly. It's nothing, he replied, but she shook her head. No, you helped us. Now I help you. She found a small cloth, dipped it in clean water, and pressed it gently against his arm. He winced at first, but then smiled. You learn fast, he said. Lyra smiled weakly. You talk like a teacher. Maybe I was one, Holt said softly. Before the war took everything. The war? She asked, curious. He stared at the floor for a moment. Humans and your kind fought for years. I was a field medic. I saw too many children like your brother, hurt, scared, alone. I promised I'd never stop helping, no matter what the law said. Lyra's voice softened. That's why you lost your home, isn't it? He nodded. Helping the wrong side, he said with a small smile. At least that's what they called it. For a long time they sat in quiet understanding. The stars outside shone through a crack in the ceiling, their light spilling softly across Wren's face. Doctor, Lyra whispered, why do you care so much? We're not your people. Holt's eyes lifted to meet hers. Because pain doesn't care about people, he said. It just hurts. And if we don't help each other, then what's the point of all this? Lyra felt her throat tighten. No one had ever spoken like that before, not in her world, where the weak were left to die and the strong never looked back. She looked at her sleeping brother, then back at Holt. When this is over, she said softly, I'll make sure everyone knows there are humans who heal, not hurt. Holt chuckled gently. That would be nice. But for now, let's just keep him alive. The sound of rain began again outside, soft and steady. Holt set up a small heater near Wren and handed Lyra a blanket. Get some rest, he said. You've done enough for one day. Lyra wrapped herself in the blanket and lay down beside her brother. Her eyes grew heavy, but her heart felt lighter than it had in weeks. As she drifted into sleep, she heard Holt humming a quiet tune, something slow and sad, from a world far away. She didn't know the song, but it made her feel safe. Later that night, Holt walked to the door and looked out at the stars. We'll make it, he whispered to himself. No matter what it costs. Behind him, Lyra stirred in her sleep, her small hand resting on her brother's chest. The faint rhythm of Wren's breathing matched the hum of the old machines. The outpost was alive again, its purpose reborn in silence. Outside, under the cold stars, something unseen watched them from the shadows beyond the hills, and far away, deep in the alien city, a transmission blinked red. Human doctor located. Retrieve the children. The morning came cold and silent. A thin ray of sunlight slipped through a crack in the roof of the outpost, falling across Wren's face. His breathing had grown stronger, and for the first time in many days his color began to return. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. She had slept beside him, curled up on the cold floor while Dr. Holt kept watch. The human sat near an old terminal, typing quietly into its dusty interface. The faint blue glow of the screen lit his tired face. Good morning, Lyra said softly, rubbing her eyes. Holt looked up, giving a small smile. Morning. He's improving. His pulse is steady and his fever's gone down. Lyra's eyes brightened with hope. So he's safe now? Holt hesitated. Not yet. There's something strange in his blood. He turned the screen toward her. The monitor showed strange patterns, thin glowing lines moving through a dark background. See this, he said. That's not poison anymore. It's something living. Something designed, Lyra frowned. Designed like a machine? In a way, Holt said. It's a synthetic organism. It moves through his body, collecting energy, changing his cells. Whoever did this didn't just want him sick, they wanted to study him. The words hit Lyra like a storm. Study him? He's just a child. Holt's jaw tightened. A child born with something special, maybe. Look, these symbols appeared near his neck. They match a military tag I saw during the war. He showed her the marks on Wren's skin, faint but visible under the light. 3 small circles connected by a line. Lyra's breath caught. I've seen that before. On the gate of our district. Holt nodded grimly. Then it's worse than I thought. This wasn't random. Someone wanted him taken. Lyra's hand shook as she held her brother's small fingers. We were just poor, Doctor. My mother worked in the mills before she died. We had nothing. Why would anyone care about us? Because, Holt said, staring at the screen, sometimes the powerful test their cruelty on those who can't fight back. He stood and paced slowly, thinking. During the war, there was a program called Project Genevale. It focused on alien children with adaptive DNA. Some could survive diseases humans couldn't. Others could breathe different atmospheres. The army tried to weaponize that ability. Lyra's voice trembled. You think Ren is one of them? I think your brother was born with something they wanted, Holt said. And they'll come for him again. As if to answer him, a low hum echoed through the walls. The old sensors of the outpost flickered to life. Red lights blinked. Holt rushed to the console. Movement outside, he said quickly. 2 ships. Scanners active. Lyra's eyes widened. They found us? Maybe, Holt muttered, switching the power systems off. But they don't know where we are yet. The outpost shielding might hide us for a while. He turned to her. Pack what you can. We may have to move before nightfall. Lyra obeyed silently, her hands trembling as she gathered blankets, food packets, and small vials of medicine. Her eyes fell on her brother, still asleep but breathing peacefully. If they come, what will we do? She asked in a small voice. We'll protect him, Holt said firmly. Together. As they worked, the sound of the storm outside began to rise again, distant thunder rolling over the plains. The air smelled of metal and rain. After a moment, Lyra asked quietly, Doctor, were you part of that project? The one you spoke of? Holt froze for a second, his back to her. When he spoke again, his voice was low. I was assigned to it, yes. But I didn't stay. When I found out what they were doing to children, I quit. That's why I lost my license. I refused to obey. Lyra stared at him. So you helped others escape? He nodded slowly. Some, not enough. I thought I'd never see it again, but now here it is. Her voice broke. And my brother, he's proof of it. Yes, Holt said, and maybe Hope too. If we can save him, we can prove the project's crimes to the Alliance. But they'll never let that happen, she whispered. That's why we'll need help, Holt said. I have a contact, a friend in the Interplanetary Medical Alliance. She owes me her life. If I can reach her, she'll protect you both. He began setting up a small transmitter, connecting wires and tuning signals. But once I send this message, they'll trace us. We'll have to run. Lyra stepped closer. Do it, she said. If it means he'll live, I don't care where we run. Holt glanced at her and nodded. His fingers moved quickly over the keys. A small light blinked as the transmission began. Message sent, he said after a long pause. Outside, thunder rolled again. But beneath it, they heard something else, a faint whirring sound, mechanical and sharp. Lyra's eyes darted to the window. A dark shape moved against the gray sky, a drone scanning the ground below. Holt's expression hardened. They're closer than I thought. He reached for his med kit and looked at Lyra. Get ready. If they find us, we don't surrender. Lyra swallowed hard, gripping her brother's hand. I'm not afraid anymore, she said quietly. Not while you're here. The doctor smiled faintly, though his eyes stayed on the window. Then let's hope courage is enough. Outside, lightning split the clouds. The drone turned toward the outpost. Its red lights blinked once, then twice. And deep within the machines of the old base, the ancient alarm, silent for years, began to scream again. The alarm echoed through the old outpost like a cry from the past. Red lights flashed against the metal walls. Dust fell from the ceiling as engines roared outside. The air trembled with the sound of approaching ships. Dr. Holt moved fast. They've locked onto our signal, he said sharply. We need to go now. Lyra clutched her brother's hand. But he can't walk. Holt threw open a storage locker and pulled out an old hover stretcher, its power core flickering weakly. He doesn't have to, he said, placing Ren gently onto it. This will carry him. The sirens grew louder. Through the cracks in the metal doors, bright blue lights flashed, the enemy's search beams. Lyra's heart pounded. She could hear voices outside, mechanical and cold. Target located. Prepare to breach. Holt grabbed a small blaster from his coat and handed Lyra a flashlight. Stay behind me, he ordered. If I say run, you run. Don't look back. The doors exploded inward with a thunderous blast. Smoke filled the room. 3 armored soldiers stormed in, their weapons glowing red. Lyra screamed and dropped to the floor as Holt fired once, the blast striking a pipe above them. Steam burst out, filling the air with white fog. Go, Holt shouted. Lyra pushed the stretcher through a side corridor, the small hover engine humming faintly. Ren's breathing was shallow but steady. Behind them, the echo of gunfire and metal footsteps filled the air. They turned corner after corner, their shadows flickering under the emergency lights. Holt ran close behind, limping slightly from an old injury. This way, he said, leading them down a narrow staircase. The tunnel opened into a lower chamber filled with broken machines. Holt activated an old control pad on the wall, and part of the floor shifted, revealing a secret passage beneath. Lyra gasped. You knew this was here? I helped build it, Holt said, catching his breath. During the war, we made tunnels like this to escape when bases were overrun. He guided the stretcher into the tunnel. The air was damp and cold. The lights above flickered weakly as they hurried through. Behind them, they could still hear the distant clanging of metal boots. How far does it go? Lyra asked. Far enough to reach the canyon's edge, Holt replied. If we make it there, we can signal my contact for extraction. The tunnel grew darker. Lyra used her flashlight to guide the way. The walls were covered in strange old markings, symbols of both humans and aliens. These look like peace signs, she said softly. They were, Holt said. This base was one of the few places where humans and your kind worked together. We built hope here once. Now we're just trying to survive. For a while, the only sounds were their footsteps and the soft hum of the stretcher. But then, from behind, came the sharp metallic echo of something crawling. Fast. Holt turned, aiming his blaster down the tunnel. Drones, he said. Small, silent, deadly. He fired. Sparks flew, and one drone crashed to the floor, its red eye flickering out. But another appeared behind it, then another. Lyra screamed as one shot past her head, hitting the wall beside her. We can't outrun them, she cried. Yes, we can, Holt said firmly. Hold on to Ren and keep moving. He pulled a small sphere from his pocket and threw it down. A burst of light and static filled the tunnel, blinding the drone's sensors. That'll buy us 30 seconds, he said. Move. They reached the tunnel's end, a metal grate leading to the outside world. Holt smashed the lock open with his elbow and cold wind rushed in. Beyond the opening stretched a vast canyon, deep and endless, glowing faintly under two suns. Lyra stepped out first, holding Ren close. It's beautiful, she whispered, her voice trembling. Don't stop, Holt said, scanning the sky. They'll be right behind us. He pointed toward a ridge. There's an old landing pad up there. My contact's drone can pick us up from that spot. They began to climb the rocky path, their breath fogging in the cold air. Every step was heavy. Holt's shoulder burned from his wound, but he didn't slow down. He glanced at Lyra, her face streaked with dirt, her eyes fierce with determination. You're stronger than most soldiers I've met, he said, trying to smile. Lyra looked at him. You didn't give up on us. How could I give up now? Before he could answer, a loud roar filled the air. A gunship swooped over the canyon, its spotlight slicing through the clouds. Lyra screamed and covered Ren with her body as the ship fired. The ground shook, rocks tumbling down the slope. Holt fired back, aiming at the gunship's engines. His shots hit the undercarriage, sending smoke trailing behind it. The ship wobbled but didn't fall. Then, in the distance, another light appeared, smaller, faster, blue. That's her, Holt shouted. My contact's drone. The small ship zoomed closer, firing back at the enemy gunship. The two crafts exchanged fire high above as wind whipped across the canyon. Signal it, Holt yelled. Lyra waved her flashlight, blinking it in bursts of 3. The drone responded by lowering a cable. Grab it, Holt said, pushing the stretcher under the beam. Lyra held tight to Ren as the drone began to lift them. Holt grabbed the cable last, his burned hand slipping slightly. Below them, the enemy gunship fired one last time. The explosion lit the canyon in red. For a moment, everything was light and noise, and then silence. The rescue drone climbed higher, leaving the burning outpost and the smoke behind. Lyra clung to her brother, her tears falling onto his face. Holt looked down at the world below, a world divided by fear, and whispered, "We're not done yet." Above them, the stars began to shine again, bright and cold. Hope was fragile, but it was alive. The rescue drone rose higher and higher into the night sky. The burning canyon grew smaller beneath them, only a trail of smoke left behind. Lyra held Ren close, her small hands shaking as the wind whipped through her short silver hair. Her brother's eyes fluttered open weakly for the first time in days. "Lyra," he whispered. Her heart leapt. "Ren, you're awake!" He gave a faint smile. "I dreamed of stars," he said softly, before his eyes closed again in gentle sleep. Beside them, Dr. Holt clung to the cable, his wounded arm trembling from the effort. When the drone finally docked with a larger vessel waiting above the clouds, he almost collapsed from exhaustion. The doors of the ship opened, releasing warm light that spilled over them like dawn. A tall woman with bronze skin and silver eyes stepped forward. Her uniform carried the emblem of the Interplanetary Medical Alliance. "Holt," she said firmly. "You're a hard man to find." Holt smiled weakly. "You said you owed me one, Mira. I'm collecting now." Mira looked at the two alien children, her expression softening. "You brought them all this way?" "They had nowhere else to go," Holt said. "And what's inside that boy's blood could expose everything." Mira nodded slowly. "Then we'll protect them. You have my word." They carried Ren into the ship's med bay. Bright white lights filled the room as medical drones floated overhead, scanning his body. For the first time, real equipment, not just old wires and patchwork tools, worked to save him. Lyra stood close, afraid to move. Everything around her was new and strange. Humans, aliens, and machines worked side by side, speaking in calm, gentle tones. No one shouted. No one called her street child. Dr. Holt leaned against the wall, exhausted but smiling. Mira approached him quietly. "You shouldn't have done this alone," she said. "I had no choice," Holt replied. "The Alliance stopped listening long ago. But maybe they'll listen to him." He pointed at Ren. "He's proof that the experiments continued after the war." Mira looked at him sadly. "If you're right, Holt, this could start another war. Or end one," Holt said softly. Lyra overheard their words, but she didn't understand everything. All she cared about was her brother breathing again, his small chest rising and falling under the silver sheets. She walked to Holt's side, tugging gently on his sleeve. "Doctor," she said quietly, "you didn't just save him. You saved me too," Holt smiled. "You saved yourself, Lyra. You never stopped fighting." She looked at him with wide eyes. "Will they come for us again?" He sighed. "Maybe, but they'll have to go through me first." The ship's engines hummed as they left the planet's atmosphere. Through the window, the stars stretched endlessly across the darkness, thousands of them bright and silent. Lyra had never seen so many before. "Are we in space?" she asked. Holt nodded. "Far from danger now." She leaned against the glass, staring at the stars. "They look like home." He looked at her for a moment, then said softly, "They are home. For all of us." Hours passed. Ren's vitals improved. The poison was finally leaving his body, replaced by healthy color and warmth. When he opened his eyes again, he reached out weakly. "Dr. Holt," he whispered. "Did we win?" Holt knelt beside him, his voice gentle. "Yes, Ren, you did. You fought harder than most soldiers ever could." Lyra smiled through her tears. "He said he dreamed of stars," she told Holt. The doctor smiled faintly. "Then maybe the stars were dreaming of him too." Mira entered, holding a data pad. "The results are clear," she said. "You were right, Holt. The boy carries engineered DNA. But it's not a weapon, it's a cure. His cells produce antibodies that can heal both human and alien blood diseases. Whoever created it didn't understand its real power." Lyra's eyes widened. "A cure?" "Yes," Mira said. "Your brother could save millions if he lives freely."